And we're back, and you can actually see me. Raquel, can you see me? Am I coming out clearly?
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
You got a you
Am I
got a
coming
good
through? Remember in Willy Wonka, it's like, "Am I coming through, Mom? I'm on the
I'm on
television.
the telly.
I'm on the telly."
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Oh wow. And you're well lit.
Yeah,
It's
I'm well
it's
lit. I got background. I got a good sound over here because oh look, whoa, hey, this is cool. Watch this.
ooh,
Whoa, what's that?
it's magic.
Whoa, it's magic. There we go. There's the magic. Hey, that's actually cool. Check it out.
Boom.
I'm getting ideas. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. And
Some of those
I'm
are
I'm in my
scary.
remote location, by the way, as you can tell. And
Yes.
you appear to be very remote, except that you have somebody behind you watching your back.
I know, I know. This is yeah, this is a cover from a fantasy book that I got a while ago from I think Tor.
Tor.
Yeah,
Huh.
Tor books. Anyway, so lots of good news, lots of things to talk about.
Yes.
Um, let me bring something up that I think is interesting and fun. Do you want me to share a screen?
Yes. Yes. Please share.
Let me pop a share real fast. See what I can
Papa
talk
share.
us through.
There's a new term now. Papa share. I'm popping a share. I don't know. That doesn't sound as good as it did the first time. For some reason. Here we go. It's coming up.
Share. Yep, I'm gotta get my
I
share.
feel the share coming, and here it
Wrong one.
is.
There we go.
There we go. Let's make that a big screen. Ooh, you got the widescreen going.
Yeah, let me stop the
Oh,
share. Let me.
you got the long widey.
Yeah,
I'm Larry. I got a bigger screen than you screen.
I know it. I know it.
I screen, you screen, we all screen for Larry's screen.
Yes.
I think
Hang on a
Raquel wants
moment.
that screen. That's the big, the wide one.
I've got some. I've got something that is running on the background. I've got to find. I've got too many browser windows going.
Oh, somewhere over there is the browser window you wish.
Yes.
These are good problems to have. I think these are first world problems.
It really is.
Too many apps that are running, and actually, here the fact is they're running. I think you used to tell people, it's like, remember how folks we used to complain that things wouldn't run or like it's slow, and then we complain that too many things are running. I can't find stuff. There was a time when you could never ever get that far. And the fact is that we're here, that we can run all this stuff. And where is it running? It's actually most of it's not running where we think it is. It's running somewhere else.
Right.
The cloud.
Okay. So now I've got a good browser window, and I will do my share on that other screen.
I hate to see what a bad browser window looks like.
I know it. I know it. Oh, see, I did the big one again. Hang on.
Oh, that's the big one
This is
again.
me.
Oh,
Yeah, that was the big one. There we go. That's better.
and now we have the square. Hey,
Now we have a square screen.
Let's be square.
So
Ooh, look at this.
Intel. Everybody knows about Intel, right? The machine you're running on might or might not be running with Intel chips. It at least probably has some Intel chips inside because they're one of the big manufacturers of the, the different chipsets that are on the motherboards. But like my machine's running an AMD CPU. More and more people are running AMD CPUs. Intel though is with the x86 chipsets.
Yep.
Are the grandfather, the origin,
the founders, the
founders.
frontier chips.
Right. So one of the things that they're doing to combat, we've had problems with supply chains, right? Chips, and one of the problems that we've had is just transport, just getting chips from from where they're being manufactured into the United States, which is one of the big markets. And so Intel is going to build a 1,000 acre.
What? 1,000 acre?
1,000 acre.
Oh, I see that.
1,000 acre. $20 billion. It's going to be the largest Ohio factory ever built.
And Ohio has some very, very big factories. We know that.
So a 1,000 acre factory, a 1,000 acre factory that's going to be really Intel's going to manufacture not only their own chips, but they're also going to be manufacturing chips for others. So it's kind of a shift in Intel's take on fabbing, right? On fabrication of chips.
Right.
So they've gone both, originally they were making all the chips. Other people, they would make chips for them, and then they brought it all in house, and we're only going to make our own. And now they're back to, well,
Right.
maybe we'll make some chips for other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that they're doing the fabbing for others is the U.S. government is actually going to kick in some money for this, because it's going to be a general fabrication and not just a single companies. So that's a big deal, though, because we're going to be getting U.S. based chips as opposed to chips that we have to.
So we don't have to wait as long for your stuff. I mean, I've been hearing like some people complaining it's like they don't have the stuff. You remember like with Dell when they do service, they're usually like very quick to come in if they have to replace it, and literally within 24 hours.
Right.
So I'm understanding that even that is not as quick as they used to be anymore because of supply chain.
Right.
So
supply chain's hard. And Dell was always, and disclaimer, I used to work for Dell. So I'm a little biased. I like their hardware.
Right.
But they've always been good about keeping parts on hand and keeping enough that they were able to have their local techs be able to come out and, for the express.
Right.
So if you buy business level laptops, as opposed to consumer grade laptops, the real difference between the business laptops and the consumer laptops is the parts list. And so, the business laptops, they keep a standard part list for longer. The consumer laptops, they swap them around a little more. So you never really know, or the technician doesn't necessarily know when they're, start opening it up exactly what they're going to find.
What they're going to find. Oh dear. So it might say something on here, but when they open up, it's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, it'll just have a different version, slightly different layouts and things like that. But for business laptops, it's more consistent, more standard. Wow. And so they would have their local technicians just have spare parts. But supply chain has really dried up a lot of those supply chain problems, have dried up a lot of those inventories. So they've used them and they've not been able to replace them. So you're absolutely right. That's something that is causing problems.
It is causing problems. So it's like not just if you want to get something, if you go to the whatever store and you want to get whatever's there, if it's there, I'm telling you folks, if it's there, you can get whatever's off the floor, whatever they have there in the box. But if you have to order it, then be prepared, right? Well, but it looks like they're going to deal with it.
Yeah, if you look at Walmarts and Targets and the big box stores, they really don't have a warehouse out back the way that
No, that's right.
Places used to. They're always just in time. So if it's not on the shelf, they don't have it.
Exactly.
In the malls and places like that.
I found that out with Best Buy not too long ago when I was trying to get
Best
something.
Buy as well.
Essentially, it's like, oh, I see it, and then there be like the little label. Hey, that camera that was over here or whatever. I want to get that. Well, if you don't see it, it's not here because it'll be on the floor immediately. It's like, in fact, they would have like little shelves, and it'll be there or not. And if it's not, and if it's the unit there, you're buying that unit.
There's no back warehouse where they store things that they don't have on the
display. That assumes they want to sell you the display unit. They're like, we don't want to give that up. It's like, well, there's a display unit. You can order it, but we don't want to give up display unit because we need people to be able to touch and
see it and interact with it.
And exactly.
Yep. So anyway, Intel's new chip thing, that's big news. That's going to change the landscape. Not for the next 5 or 6 years, right? Because they have to build the plant. But it's a
done deal. They're going to build the plant, though.
I believe it is. Yes, that's what the article's talking about.
Yeah,
it's investing up to $100 billion.
That used to be a lot of money. Remember, Dr. Eagle's like $1 million. That's right. That used to be a lot of money. It turns out that's actually chump change now for a lot of these big business deals we keep seeing. Oh my God!
Right. So they've already spent. It says here that they've already spent $200 billion to get the 100-acre site or 1,000-acre site.
Holy camokes! There's some rich farmer out there.
Yeah.
Ex-farmer.
Well, but they don't want to put it out in the middle of the woods, right?
No.
Because they have to have infrastructure. They're going to have 3,000 people working there, so those people have to live somewhere.
Cue in Lost in the Woods, the music.
Yeah.
Man. Whoa. But yeah, so where by Ohio did they say this was going to be?
In New Albany.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, is that north or south?
I do not know.
Trying to recall, because like usually it's closer to Cincinnati or closer to Cleveland. New Albany. Let's find it. So that's because the folks in Albany, New York said we need to go someplace different. Hey, how about Ohio?
Right outside Columbus.
Columbus. Okay, so Columbus is in the center. That's right. It is in the center. I remember some of my geography.
Yeah, so halfway between Cincinnati and Cleveland.
Well, that's actually very strategic because look, there's Pittsburgh right over there down the road for you getting all your. So if you're talking supply chain, remember those old railroad games that they have, and remember Pittsburgh and all those places. You know what game I'm talking about, right?
Oh
it's like this is the original rail lines for getting all that stuff. So you're going to get all the parts, and so what an interesting place right there, Columbus.
There you go. And yes, they got, they're easy trucking distance from the lakes, the Great Lakes, and
there's some great schools over there too. So they got definitely good people to work for them right off the bat.
Lower cost of living than probably
than Chicago or New York. That's
Chicago or New York for sure. Yeah, as we saw yesterday, or last week rather.
Last week, we were looking at the yesterday as for those folks that just saw this. Yeah, look at this. So it's halfway between you and me. I'm looking over here at the map.
Yep.
We meet in between. Go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame while we're at it. Let's see.
There you go.
There you go. Da, da, da.
Here's me. Here's Ralph. And that's where they're going to be putting it.
That's right. So we don't have to block this because everyone knows where Chicago and New York is.
Yeah.
And there's New Albany, and there's Old Albany up there, straight up the road from you.
So what else do we have? That's kind of my.
So besides looking at Ralph's money again, I'm still below. But here's the thing: I saw me coming up within 10% of my money. It's recovering a lot.
It is.
So I feel I'm almost I'm going to show Ralph's money again when I come back to parity. That's my promise. As soon as I get back to parity, I swear I will show my money again. But right now, I'm not at parity yet. I'm getting there. Everyone's looking at it. They're saying that there's talks of like one type of currency, Ethereum, being taken over by another one. I don't know about that. I'm trying not to get into any of the hype because I notice that when these people talk Bitcoin, they don't talk about it like like in regular. Because I was with the financial folks for a long time.
Right.
When they talk serious on like CNBC and all that stuff, there's a certain demeanor to speak about it. The Bitcoin folks, not so much. It's more Access Hollywood, I guess, or TMZ for the way they talk about their stuff. I mean, I'm not going to discount it. It's news is news, right? However you present it, it's just the presentation method sort of makes you want to say, okay, let me just look at it in text form because when I hear you speaking it,
NPR, Planet Money,
yes,
you can trust those guys.
You can trust those guys. Well, when you
not
hear
a lot of hype there, but
exactly. But when actually these same things, when you read it on text, is actually better because when you hear them talking about it, because there's all these blogs, and I'm getting them now because I don't know how that happened. I guess I'm showing my Coinbase money on our show over here because now I get every spam that says, "Hey, we're Coinbase saying this and that." Ralph Rivas is. How do they know Ralph Rivas?
Yeah, they're not.
How do they know the Coinbase? Because these guys are actually paying attention. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe while you're at it. Damn it! If you're going to try to get me for money, at least subscribe.
Yeah, if you're gonna fish, at least pay for the bait.
Come on, exactly. So, but otherwise, so I'm going through it, and I better off reading it manually. So it's not just Coinbase who will send me a note once in a while, but there'll be others. There'll be online stuff. It's the YouTube stuff that comes through. They're like, oh, it's screaming at you in some cases.
And if you look at Google News alerts, if you look at any of the alerts, some firm somewhere is saying that like Ethereum is going to be $50,000. A coin by the end of the year, and Bitcoin will be $1 million, and that's based on nothing but hype and
the hype,
hot air, and
can hype make it work? What? Hype can make it work, but then again, that's how do we say it? It's play money, and eventually the markets will react. The markets will catch up to you. At some point, the markets will say, that's play money. We're done. Right. And I have a feeling that's how they caught those people in those serial folks in New York. I think maybe the FBI were investigating. Do we have that story up there somewhere?
Let me see if I can find that.
Folks, they called them the serial entrepreneurs. I'm like, how can you be a serial entrepreneur? And it turns out it's not someone that's working out of Kalamazoo and working for Kellogg's. It is.
There we go.
There we go. The hipster couple.
Hipster couple charged in billion-dollar Bitcoin heist.
Remember what I said?
You did. You said billion. I was like, no, it can't be $1 billion. But yes, they
how the heck did they do this?
They would, launch a startup and funnel some money through it, take it out as they would invest, right? They would have somebody invest in the startup. Take the money out of salary, and the money when it comes out of salary is clean. So
like that TV show Ozarks over here, but this is with Bitcoin.
Right.
Look at that! Holy
so
smoke!
They stole a lot of Bitcoin.
Well, I think it's worth $1 billion because look here, 90,000 Bitcoin worth 3.6 billion. Now, when they got it, obviously it was worth less, but because they're playing with it. Sure enough,
so
there it is.
So in 2016, they got 120,000 Bitcoin from a currency exchange, and at the time it was worth around $71 million. And now it's
that's no sneezing money. That's like
no, yeah, don't get me wrong. that's quit your job and
it now could be worth around $4.5 billion.
$billion. Yeah, and gosh,
holy smokes.
NFTs and Bitcoin. And so one of the things that's interesting, just in case you didn't know, so more money has been stolen, more cash, right? Cash has been stolen from banks this year than all the Bitcoin fraud and things like that combined.
Isn't that interesting? Hold on a second. What?
But we're doing a lot fewer transactions in Bitcoin. Okay, so there's the fraud rate's a lot higher, but we still have fraud that happens in regular banks with regular money. Okay, so we see these and the numbers are crazy, but you look at Madoff and you look at the Ponzi schemes that go on with investments. And so on the one hand, this is something that everyone should be aware of. You should be cautious. Okay. On the other hand, it's also just kind of the nature of dealing with large sums of money. Somebody's going to try to steal it from you.
Somebody's going to want it. Somebody's going to want to deal with it when they know, especially when they know it's out there. All I can think of is like, how did this say? How did they caught him? I know they had like an investigation going on for a while. In some cases, though, you're too high profile. Like, there's no way. It's like in the Superman 2 movie. Remember when Richard Pryor goes over and buys a really big car? Remember that one? The old. I think we talked about this, like pennies on pennies, and then Richard Pryor comes up and asks, like, because he just learned computers, he learned about this stuff, and he asks, "What happens to those pennies on pennies?" Oh, nothing. They're lost. Error? It's like, so no one noticed it? No. It's like, so then he directed all the rounding into his own account. Right. And then all of a sudden they notice, oh my gosh, we lost all this money. And then they're all upset and everything else. Gosh, by now they're long gone. They've escaped. Oh man, all that. And they look outside and all of a sudden comes driving a nice little red car. They're like, okay, hey, we got the guy. I think that's what this is right off the bat. It's like you flaunt it. This is why the ones that you want to be more worried about are the ones that are quiet. Yeah. Those are, to me, that's the scarier ones. The ones that are noisy and at least out there, they're out there. You can sort of see them coming. They were not going to be there too long. They're going to be caught. It's the ones that are quiet. And they're the ones that'll really get away with it.
So there are problems with exchanges. There's just a lot of ways that, if you think about a bank, right? I mean, 100 years ago, banks were a lot different than they are today. Okay, banks were local establishments. Banks, the real thing, back in the wild, wild west, right? The idea of a bank, if you put your money in the bank and the bank was robbed, you lost your money.
How about
right?
it?
Now we have FDIC. We've got, a lot of things that, up to a certain amount, there's an insurance policy on your money
Right.
that the
Oh, and the
feds
bank
pay.
is not required to keep all your money in the bank. It's like literally a percentage. And by the way, that percentage is super
It's
small.
going smaller and smaller. I know that's a different topic.
Yes.
But Bitcoin is just starting out, right? Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies are just starting out. We've not really gotten to the point that any of these have the maturity of even modern day banks. So some exchanges are going to fail. You're going to have exchanges that were started, coin exchanges that were started by bad people, just for the sole purpose of stealing people's money, getting people to put a lot of money into it, and then they're going to take it all and run away.
Right.
There are small banks today that are
the pop-up bank. Literally,
well, I mean, yeah,
pop-up
banks.
There's like pop-up COVID testing that you guys now have to watch out for. Look out, be careful.
And it's not that this is inherently riskier. It's just that it is riskier because of the environment that we're in. So, and NFTs are the same sort of thing. There are some NFTs that are from more reputable people, but even then, I mean, are we getting close to the end of that bubble? Are they tulips? Are they really tulips?
That's right. Are they the Dutch tulips of the 21st century? So
we're seeing on late night shows, stars and late night hosts, talking about the NFTs that they bought. I mean, that's puffery and hype. And if we look at a certain ex-president's wife did some NFTs, and they looked through all of the transactions and found that they were buying and selling them to themselves to kind of pump the price. And so a lot of pump and dump schemes, and a lot of the things that we've got federal regulators, regulating with the stock market. Again, these NFTs are unregulated.
Oh yes, that's
right. And that means that there aren't those protections, and so you have to, beware.
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware, and don't invest. They're like options. Don't invest anything you can't afford to lose all of.
Right. Or if you're investing it, you're investing for love and all that stuff, like the Raquel NFTs.
Yes, you need to make some NFTs.
Yes.
But it's also just for fun, right?
Yes.
So the only NFTs that I currently own are from Marvel, I think it was.
Yes, you showed me that.
Yeah, Marvel, put out some NFTs and they gave them away because
hey, I got your NFT still. I'm still sitting on it. That one little mini NFT. So I actually have that. I'm not. In fact, when we check for house money, we're going to see the value of that.
We're going to see the value of that.
See what happens. We're going to see. We're going to see if maybe I can pump and dump it, and see if I can make that work. That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting experiment. It's like, how does that work?
Sell it, buy it, and sell it back to yourself.
Buy it and exactly. That that'd be an interesting actually exercise. But you know what's good about it is it teaches me how that stuff works. So that if I'm advising somebody, it's like, well, how does this work? It's like, well, this is how it works. And why are you teaching it to me? Not because I want you to do it, because I want you to guard against it. How can you spot when it's happening? Because this is what it looks like from this side.
Right. Here's what I want to show you though. Look, if we come back over here to this article about the hipster duo.
Yep.
They started out with 120,000 Bitcoins, and they just stole or pulled back 90,000. Where did the other?
Where's the other 40?
30. Where the other
40? Yep.
Where the other 30,000 Bitcoins go? Right. So every time you do a transaction, it costs you money.
Right.
And so the washing, they were trying to wash the money. They were trying to clean it and get it clean. And as part of doing that, they're having to pay fees. And so buying and selling your own NFT, you're buying and selling, but there's a transaction fee on each one of those. And so you will eventually run your money out. It's a lot like playing a slot machine, right? You hit every once in a while, but most of the time the house gets your money.
So. Got it. So that's very interesting. So, but the thing is, though, when if you're doing it at that scale, that's the cost of doing business, basically.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
A lot of dollars and cents. I know. Gosh, come on.
Yeah.
So what else do we have? What do we have that's cloudy?
I mean, what's we have that's cloudy? I wanted to talk
infrastructure. We did.
I wanted to talk data originally. I was going to have a data guy. We're going to have a data guy. We are. I promise we're going to have a data guy. Mainly, here's the thing. Like I've been saying for everyone from this time, any kind of application you think in the cloud will always have data, now, unless it is literally just. And even if it's just like, well, here's an app that just takes a picture of you and makes you look funny. Well, that's all fine and well. And even if it sounds like that's it, and then you're done, and then you close your app. But what's happening over there? Well, there's going to be data because it's got to say, okay, I'm taking a picture of you making it look funny, but I now have to send that to somewhere to say, get me the info that I need to feed back to make your funny face. What is my source of my funny face? Maybe you'll want to save your funny face or send it to your friend for that short period of time that you just wanted to send that stuff, or you got to do something to it. There's data everywhere, whether it's data that
metadata on your picture, right? Your modern phones, you've got not only the location, right? You've got the time, the date, the location. You've got a lot of information that's pounded into that image that you're sending off to somebody else. You're giving them that information.
Exactly.
They know who you are and where you are.
Exactly. So there's just tons of data. There's always going to be a data play. So lately I've been like, when putting together projects, some of the things that they ask me is like, how do you staff some of these projects for the cloud? We were talking about that with roles and all this stuff. I'm going to tell you right now that even if your requirements come to say, okay, no, there's no data person. It's just a front end that's going to do this stuff. So yeah, there's a data person. But where is it? It's talking to that data over there. It's like, well, do you have a data person over there? Well, they built it and they're there for support. So, well, okay, unless that person is part of the team, I would say you have a gap, right? Because if you just tell me you can call them when you need them, that is not the safe thing. The same like, oh, the IT guy will come help me when I need him. They need to be part of the team. The IT guy is a stakeholder. The data person is a stakeholder, because even though you're reading only the data, it's their data. They could say one day, oh, this data, we don't want to give it to you anymore.
And look, if they're not on the team, then they can't do user stories. And if there's not user stories, there's no work being done. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Every this is a personal thing, but
I know.
If there's not a user story that's assigned to a sprint, at the end of the sprint, you can't say, well, where's this? Point to the user story that has that as an output.
If a delivery falls in the forest and there's no user story, does anyone even know something was done?
Exactly. You have to do that. So
that's true.
Now, one thing that you mentioned though was, where do things get done? Let me show you this. This is an interesting thing that I found out about yesterday, I think it was. Do you know about the World Community Grid?
Let's look at this.
Have you seen such a thing? So one of the things that people are part of the reason that people are mining Bitcoins and mining Ethereum and doing all the mining is, well, they want to get rich. Okay. But the other people, there are people out there right now that have contracts with Rackspace or contracts with a company that has hardware, and they're paying for that hardware, whether it's being used or not.
Right.
And, and it's just sitting there idle, and they don't want to let it sit there idle. So what can they do with it? Well, they could throw a Bitcoin miner on it, that's for sure, and use the power. But there are other things that you can do with it, and this World Community Grid is one of them. So this is where you can do like the protein folding,
right,
and do all sorts of there places where you can basically give your computing power to the world.
Yeah. Oh, so here's the thing. If you recall, how did the cloud evolve? Like Amazon and Microsoft and all these places had tons of compute power going on for their own stuff. And then they realized, well, you know what? That unused stuff, we can rent it. Right. I think Amazon was the first to really pull through with that heavily, because they needed that kind of power just to manage all their the stores that are doing. Microsoft is like, well, we have it, but not because we're supporting any of our stuff. Really, it's because we have it because we just want to make sure that we're supporting customers that are doing a lot of this work. Eventually, Amazon does that. Microsoft looks at it, it's like, well, we have the wherewithal. We can do that too. Google, of course, is in the same boat. We have all this technology because we have to support this engine and everything else. The same thing. We're going to have unused power. So what we're saying over here is like, well, okay, just like the big folks had their chance for renting their power. In this case, now let's go to the community, right? And we have all these folks that are still running power on their own. They still have like their on premises and everything else.
Yeah,
they're heating up the world with all their gases and everything else. But like, you know what? If you're going to just heat up those data centers, because they still exist, and I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon, turn that power into something productive. Do they get like a tax break for this, or how does this work?
That's a good question, and I don't know. I don't know if there's anything associated with that.
So do you have a laptop and you say, hey, my laptop's not busy, can I join that group? Or is it like you need to?
No,
that's interesting.
You download, you put it in. So folding at home is one of the early ones. It's the protein folding. They actually they worked to do some of the COVID-19.
So not the data mining. This is basically saying, hey, my laptop, I leave it on all day, and I'm only using it most of the time, but I'm now going to join this, and my laptop could suddenly be busy overnight because I'm just one little node of a larger node.
Right. So here this and world
compute slow you down. It won't drain battery. Look at that.
Yeah, it's safe and secure. Won't waste data. It's just so they've done 2.4 million years of computing power to date. Okay, so I mean, it's a worthy thing, right?
This is a very worthy thing.
Another way to heat your house.
Wow, this looks like some folks in the Philippines there in the middle here. What countries are going on? What countries are supplying with this?
It's global. I don't know.
It's very global. Actually, this is impressive. We should actually, when we can find someone who can talk about this particular topic, because this is very worthy, community worthy.
Yep.
I like this. The fact that it's a cloud stuff, this is probably one of our best episodes on something right there.
Forget
Ralph's money. Here's Ralph's laptop going to probably join the world for some work. I'm going to make you be busy because you're just sitting there, not giving me the love. I can't even do Camtasia anymore because I have the most current dev version of Windows 11, and I can't undo my dev package anymore without killing my machine. So I can't run Camtasia right now. So now it's partially my fault, but at the same time, it's like, why does it have to be that way?
Why is it happening to you?
So since I can't be doing video processing, I might as well
be folding.
There we go. Bring back the Buffalo.
The last thing I'm just gonna repitch the global meetup for Rancher.
There we go. Yes,
because here's the thing. If we look at OpenStack, I think it's OpenStack. Oh, so OpenStack is a cross-platform Cloud Foundry. Cloud Foundry is another, kind of stack, if you will, that sits above. Both of those sit above the virtualization layer, and they're there to make it easier to use. But they're both setting above at this point Kubernetes, because Kubernetes has one. That's it. Okay.
Yep.
So if you're going to be using,
I got a good case of Kubernetes. I'll tell you right now.
If you're going to be using, and honestly, Docker has one Kubernetes right now, and it's the Docker image. It's not the Docker the company. Want to get that clear. The Docker standard image is what's being used under most Kubernetes.
Correct.
But Kubernetes is
that's just the orchestrator. Exactly.
It's Kubernetes underlies most of these other. Tanzu, right? Tanzu from here. Let me pull a quick Tanzu look.
Yep. Tanzu from our favorite friends, VMware.
From VMware, right?
I mean, if you think about it, VMware is where the concept of the Docker and the containers came from. By the way, reminder, back in history.
Back in the day, VMware started out with this whole idea of virtual machines. Now see that, and we say they started it, but really they took the concept from VMware, from
the mainframes,
right? Mainframes had been doing that kind of virtualization for a long time. So
that's right.
Anyway, regardless of what virtualization piece you're using, Kubernetes is a good thing, and yeah, SUSE is a reasonable. They've been around for a long time. Linux distribution, and Rancher is a company that they bought.
So SUSE, did SUSE buy Rancher?
SUSE bought Rancher.
Oh, that's right.
That's why we're seeing a lot more Rancher activity, is because they're pouring money into them to help. And so, Rancher Desktop.
Got it.
Worth a look. We're we're probably gonna talk to this guy at some point. Maybe not next week, but
hey, Bob.
Yeah.
We haven't talked to him in a while. It'd be nice to catch up with him again.
Yeah, catch up with him, see how things are going.
Yes, there we go.
And that's all I've got. I mean,
that's a good one. So hey, that's a lot right there. So we had we were able to cover some good topics today, even though we weren't able to have a guest, but we shall be having the guests. We'll get in there. We want to follow up eventually on the security side about threat modeling and things like that. More details about how to do that. Given you saw, we keep scaring you with all this stuff, this security stuff going on. So it'll be a good idea for us to revisit that, because here the cloud again is not complete without having security topics, the data topics, the virtualization topics.
We should talk about performance testing, and we should talk about how we can do performance testing on the cheap rather than doing it at scale, because a lot of people don't understand that you can do performance testing without, if you need to have a capacity of 100,000 simultaneous users, that doesn't mean that you need to set up 100,000 virtual machines and have them all hit the site at the same time.
Right.
Exactly. You can do sampling and smaller sizes, and that's a big deal, because a lot of people waste a lot of money doing performance testing the wrong way.
That's a good one. So testing, of course, another key factor. At one point, we want to revisit the good old 12 factor or the 9 factor.
Yeah.
What's that? What do you call it? It was like
Fine 9.
The Fine 9. Yes, we're going to go back and look at the Fine 9 over here, and we're going to see what has changed in the Fine 9 since we last looked. See how it's aged. Yep. I mean, it went from 12 to 9, so it got svelte. So from 12, it's like it went down to a 9. So some people are like, hey, I'd love to go to a size 9 from my size 12. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. We'll take a look at that pretty soon. Otherwise, we're going to go back to our virtual environments back over here. Now that I have some things working, eventually I'll be able to return to my lair where things will probably be working properly, and I'll have more better equipment for some things. But here's good. So I don't have a little thing going. This actually sounds really good. I think it's working well.
Yeah. Oh. All right. Well,
that's it.
We're gonna call it. Let's call it for
we're calling it for the World Community Grid. There's the last picture we're going to leave up here.
We're going to leave
Raquel,
this guy
can you
up.
sign us out? Or send us an NFT, one of the two.
Have a good weekend. Yes, design your NFTs.
Raquel will either send us an NFT as a bill or sign us out. One of the two.
Drop early, drop often.
And it is.